how to get free money or how to get down payment assistance when buying a home. Hey guys, my name is Sandy. I'm a licensed realtor here in the Central Florida area, also a licensed loan originator. Today I want to do a video for you. If you're looking to buy a home and you're having problem with down payment assistance, or you have problem with down payment, or you're like, I could never buy a home, where am I going to get the money from? Here are some tips that might help you to do so. Now, first you got to figure out what your budget is, right? Based upon your income, how much home would you qualify for? Based upon that, what loan term would you qualify for as well? Meaning, can you put 3.5% down? Can you put 5% down? Can you put 10% down? What do I need to put down? What's the minimum I could put down to buy this home? So the first thing would be to have a consultation with a loan originator or a loan officer to figure out what you qualify for. So let's pretend you qualify for a home up to $300,000, right? Can't get much these days in our area with that price, but let's just pretend we could buy a home or a townhome for $300,000. Our loan officer tells us we could do 3.5% down. So 3.5% of 300,000 is about 10,500, I believe. I'm doing rough maths. It's about 10,500. So we need 10,500 for down payment, and we need closing costs. Closing costs is in our area is probably going to be about 3% of the purchase price, so another 9,000. So we need $20,000 about. We need about $20,000 to buy a $300,000 home. That's what our loan officer tells us. What are we going to do? First thing we're going to do is we're going to apply for all the down payment assistance that we could get. So we're going to go out there, we're going to find out, or maybe the loan officer can even tell you what are some down payment assistance avenues you could go down to get that. So we're going to go and we're going to apply for grants that are available out there for a down payment assistance. Now remember, a lot of these grants are going to come with stipulations, stuff like you need to live in the house. It has to be a primary resident for sure. So you got to be living there. You may have to live in the house for up to 5 years. You may have to live in the house for at least 5 years, so you wouldn't have to pay it back. They're going to come with those kind of stipulations. So make sure that when you get down payment assistance, you know what all the stipulations are, and you're going to be able to abide by them. And don't commit mortgage fraud, guys. Don't buy the home as an owner resident and then rent it out and don't live there. That's not a good idea. So you're going to find out what the restrictions are on that. Then you say, okay, able to get some grants. Okay, fine. Another way is to move your money around. Meaning, if you have a high interest rate credit card, you may want to go and get a lower interest rate credit card and transfer the balance over to that. That's one thing. Another thing is examine what all of your expenses are. And do you really need every single thing that your expenses are? Like, maybe you have premier cable. Maybe you could go do basic cable. Maybe you don't need cable at all. Maybe you only need Wi-Fi in your home or your apartment. So figure out what are the stuff you could cut out and cut them out. Do you really need a Netflix subscription? Do you really need a Prime subscription? Do I really need to spend this much money and gas every week going to work or going around? Do I need to go out every weekend? So move your money around, figure out where you could cut to start saving. Next thing is sell your stuff. What do I mean by that? You could have a garage sale. Maybe there's stuff in your home that you could get rid of that you don't really need. Maybe you have big bulky furniture that you don't really need at the moment. You could sell those. You can always rebuy furniture. So figure out if you could sell anything in your home and do that, right? Anything you could sell at a flea market, of a yard sale, whatever you could get rid of, sell it, get rid of it. That would be great. Also, if your landlord allows it, you could probably sublease. So if you're in an apartment or a home and you have extra bedrooms you're not using, maybe you could rent those rooms out just to help you with your rent so you could save for a down payment for a home. I talk about this on another video that's called House Hacking. So you could do that. Or, no, what's going on with my throat there? I'm so sorry. Or you can rent out some of the room as short-term rental or as Airbnb. Maybe you have 2 or 3 rooms in your home, or maybe a bedroom that you're not using that you could probably either rent to someone on a permanent, on a monthly level, or put an Airbnb and rent it out if the landlord allows that, right? See my video on house hacking to know how to do that, or just give us a call, send us a text. You could switch providers. So again, find out if this company is charging you this much money for Wi-Fi, maybe you're able to switch to a cheaper company to cut down on your Wi-Fi bill. Same thing with cell phones. Maybe you're able to do a different cell phone carrier. Maybe you don't need all the bells and whistles on the cell phone. So remember that the goal is to buy a house, right? So you're going to have to make some sacrifices to get to that level. All right. Maybe you could ask your boss for a flexible schedule, meaning instead of having to drive to the office 5 days a week, maybe your boss may allow you to work 2 days, and then you could stay to work 2 days in the office and 3 days at home, or vice versa, which means you'll save money and gas going back and forth. It's also not a bad idea to see what Uber charges. Sometimes, believe it or not, this has happened where it was cheaper to do Uber than to drive because that client had to pay parking fees. So when they get to work, they have to pay parking fees. So it was cheaper for them to just take a Uber because they wouldn't have to pay the parking fee. So that's something else to do. Another thing is to collect plastic bottles. I know, don't stone me, I get it. But you start collecting bottles, you'll be surprised how much you could possibly save. In collecting bottles, you'll be surprised how much money you could actually make when you turn those bottles in. Another thing is negotiate your closing cost in the deal. So, remember we said you need $10,500 for a down payment, and then you're going to need another 3% of the purchase price for closing costs. Maybe you could negotiate that with the seller to cover 3% of your closing costs. FHA allows that. So if you're doing an FHA loan, which is what we're talking about right now, you might be able to ask the seller for a 3% seller's concession, which will cover most of your closing costs. FHA allows you to get up to 6% seller's concession. So based upon the motivation of the seller you're working with, and don't marry the home, guys. Don't get too caught up with the home, so that don't get emotionally attached to the home before all the financial details are worked out, because that would mess you up. So if you look at the home, you say to the seller, hey, you think you can give us a 3% seller's concession? Seller says no. Look at another home, keep shopping around, see who will give that to you. Okay? So of course you gotta like the home as well, but don't get too emotionally caught up, because a lot of changes can be made on a home. If you see the home and it's not the correct color paint, or you don't like the kitchen, or you don't like the appliances, whatever you don't like, that can be changed over time as you live in the home. So if we're looking for down payment assistance, we're going to have to be a little bit creative and look into what can be changed over time in a home if the seller is willing to work with you to help you with your closing costs. Another thing is research alternative mortgages. So right now we're talking about a FHA mortgage with 3.5% down. Maybe we could go out a little bit more rural. And when I say rural, it doesn't necessarily mean boondocks at all. It means find out what the USDA map is and what areas are on the USDA map, because there's a USDA mortgage with no money down. It's a stricter kind of mortgage. You do have to qualify exactly to the penny, meaning if they want you to earn 80,509.01 cents and you make 509.02 cents, that could be an issue in qualifying. But it's not a bad idea to find out if you qualify for a USDA loan, especially if there's new construction being built in a USDA area. So if the area is zoned for USDA and there's a builder building there, most builders will cover your closing cost anyway. So more than likely you'll be able to buy the home with no money down plus your closing costs covered. Now they may want something upfront as a good faith down payment or something like that, which you'll get back at the end. That's normally $2,000 to $5,000. So they might say, well, to go on the contract, we need $5,000, but there's a USDA mortgage and we're going to cover your closing costs. You'll get the $5,000 back at the closing table, or you could add that in upgrades. I just want to make sure you have meat in the game, all right? Skin in the game, as they say. So you can also look into alternative mortgages such as the USDA. Now, what if you found a home? Let's say you found a home, you wanted to do that home, but it needed repairs. Another thing to look into is called a FHA 203K loan, which gives you the money to purchase the home and to also do the repairs. The down payment is going to be based upon the purchase price of the home plus the amount of the repairs. So if the home is $300,000 and it needs $20,000 worth of repair, the loan becomes $320,000, and then you'd need 3.5% on that. But the good news is you could still ask the seller, even in that loan condition, to pay your closing costs, or first it's called a seller's concession. So you could still ask for up to a 6% seller's concession on a FHA 203K loan, with FHA giving you the money to buy the home and to do the repairs as well. And based upon the amount of repairs, they will allow you to do some of it. They're not going to allow you to do stuff that includes a licensed plumber, licensed electrician, or anybody that needs to be licensed. But like if you need to paint or lay floors down and you think you could do it, they will allow you to do some of the work as well. So these are some options. Now remember, we went into great details about this on this video that I did on house hacking, where we're going over how to rent out one of the room in your home, but make sure your landlord is okay with subleasing, or even how to put one of your rooms on Airbnb and make additional money. So if you're renting and the landlord allows subleasing, this is one way of taking care of your rent. If you're able to rent out a room or 2 rooms on Airbnb or a short-term rental platform, maybe the money you're making from that will cover your rent, so you could save your rent for your down payment to buy a home. And then maybe you might want to buy a home and then buy the home with the intention of doing the same thing, renting a room or 2 out. If you're going to buy a home and want to rent part of it out for Airbnb or short-term rental, and it's in an HOA, make sure the HOA approves short-term renting. Make sure short-term renting is allowed in that HOA development. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I hope some of these tips help. If you want to go into more details, send us a call or send a text. Number should be somewhere here or somewhere below. We will be happy to talk to you, and we always do complimentary consultations. See you on the next video.